Right, part two. Slight technical problem, meant I had to stop the video, but it's been probably better in little chunks, in it. You can go for a walk around the garden, get yourself a biscuit, go and do some research into inspector calls, help your parents, and something useful. Right, the arrogance inspector shows us her superior attitude and well-more view and sense of entitlement. So, slight tweak, I'm going to put a comma in there so I realise it's poor English. Her arrogance inspector shows us her superior attitude, worldly and sense of entitlement. Now, I don't really want to get into Peter Petal type of structure, because I think it confuses people, and I think what happens is that some of you just rely on that. You write very little for some of the bits, and you think, well, I've done a suitable paragraph. Instead, I would rather concentrate on the mark scheme. Now, for some of you, you may need that structure. So if you want to go back to Peter Petal or long P, whatever you've been taught, then that is fine, and it will get you a good grade. But for those of you that are pushing to get a very good grade, you need to step away from it and just be a bit more holistic, which means putting it all together. So you're focusing on the key word. We're talking about unlikable, but also it's this present. That is actually the most important key word. How does Priestley present her, and why? Are we looking at these things, the symbolism, setting, language, time, characters? Well, yes, we're talking about Mrs. Birling. And are you talking about the effect? So, Priestley is very effective at establishing her social status. Right? We see this in her introduction at the dinner. He does this so we are clear where she stands in the strict Edwardian social hierarchy, which I'm probably going to spell wrong. Right, so we're talking about what he's doing. This on its own is not enough to make her unlikable. However, the arrogance she demonstrates because of her position is. Right. Now, what does that tell the audience? The audience, and it is audience, not reader, because it's play. Just little things like that. There's all the difference between the sort of a 4 and a 5 and going up to the higher grades. The audience would instantly not like her, and even if they are themselves. Oh, I forgot to turn the email off. And even if they are themselves upper class, they would be horrified at her attitude. Now, don't know if you remember the thing I sort of went through at the start of it. You explain it again, explain it again. You keep explaining it until you run out of avenues to go down, and then you know you've explained it fully. It's just being a bit rude. It would not be enough to make somebody think, oh, don't like her. However, what he does is she remains consistent. Her consistent arrogance and snobbery firmly establish. Again, not firmly. Remember, adverbs, adjectives make a massive difference. Firmly establish how unpleasant and uncaring she is. This is very effective at the end when she fails to learn anything and is even unconcerned about the death of her grandchild. Now, something over the years which I've never understood, to be honest, but it does happen, is students who are painfully reluctant to spoil the ending of the play for the examiner. So what we tend to have is, I'm going to change that to black, it's bugging, is that students, for some reason, they won't talk about the end of the play until the end of their essay. It's a bit daft, isn't it? The examiner knows the play, the examiner knows the end. There's no big reveal, you're not spoiling it for them, so feel free to jump to the end, because that's the change bit. If you think back to this key bit here, it's the change, right? Now, I haven't actually put any quotes in, because it is a closed book. You will not be expected to quote a lot. Now, they would expect some key quotes. So what we need to do is have a think about what she says. If you cannot think of the exact quote, you're better off just paraphrasing it. But I think straight away you should be able to think of a key quote from Mrs. Birling, and now obviously you've got the copy that I've sent you. So you should be able to look up quotes yourself, or just Google Mrs. Birling key quotes. And I'm actually looking at my book now, because the post-it note fell out when I grabbed it because my earphones are in. Right, got it. Just trying to get the exact quote. Her comment to the inspector: she only had herself to blame. Perfectly, again, adverb to demonstrate, understand perfectly, illustrates, I've used, but you can use words again for good. Perfectly illustrates how she is completely indifferent to the plight of the working class. Now, context. I'm back. Right. Is the context bit. Now, talk about, you got 3 different types of context. Well, there's more than that, but 3 are going to come strong. We've got social, so in this case, it's probably role of women and working class. Historical, obviously they've just come out of the Second World War, so they want to learn from that. And for the really clever ones, literary. Now, as I said, there's something very Greek about Mrs. Birling. Birling's hubris, her undoing, and alongside the Aristotelian structure Priestley conjures up a modern Greek tragedy. Fate dealing with their fault. And then if you really want to talk about, you've got the issue with the women as well. Mrs. Birling's lack of empathy for other women, reminding us the suffragette movement was as much about class as gender. Now, you might if you don't understand that, you need to read the booklet I sent out ages ago with the feminism articles. It's not necessarily you don't need to fully explain it. You don't need to write a history essay. Just showing an awareness of the idea will be enough. And what that is the fact that basically when women got the vote, it was rich women over a certain age, and that was all to do with the history in the First World War, that a lot of women were left widowed young without any legal rights to their husbands' property and money, and they didn't like this, so they had the generational thing. They had older parents who could influence it, and they managed to push it along, because whatever great movement happens in society, it's the women that always end up like basically their position being improved last. Do you think about slavery? African American women were treated very badly afterwards for a long time because it was ingrained. Think about the suffragettes and the Victorians and the Edwardians. The women had the worst jobs, had the hardest jobs, and were treated the worst. Right. That is the sort of thing you could write. I've deliberately tried to go from a certain structure because I don't want it to be a label. I want you to express yourself, I want you to explore the issues. No. There's not.